Hello, Bob Rietfeld here, preaching and teaching minister of the Spring Hill Christian Church of rural Ocklawaha, Georgia. And welcome to another lesson in Ecclesiology, or the Doctrine of the Church. Today we're going to be finishing the section about preachers, and we're going to be talking about the requirements for being a preacher, biblical knowledge and adequate ability, and an exemplary lifestyle. So let's go ahead and get started right away with first the requirements for being a preacher. The New Testament requirements for taking on the position of preacher can be summarized with or by three ideas, three key ideas: a mature grasp of biblical teaching; second, an exemplary lifestyle; and third, adequate ability. The requirements for a preacher can be gathered by reading Paul's instructions throughout the pastoral epistles to the two young preachers, Timothy and Titus. And so with that being said, we look at the biblical knowledge and adequate ability. The priority task of a preacher implies the necessity that he possess a mature grasp of biblical teaching. Regarding the task of proclaiming the gospel invitation to the lost, a preacher must clearly understand the plan of salvation. A preacher must have some familiarity with the variety of thinking among people of the world in order to make the gospel relevant and attractive. Regarding the task of proclaiming the further demands of the gospel to the saints, a preacher must have a good understanding of the Bible doctrines that go beyond the plan of salvation. A preacher must be prepared to teach the word to different levels of spiritual maturity within the church. In order to accomplish his evangelistic task, a preacher should also have both the gifts and training necessary to effectively preach the word. 2 Timothy 2 verses 24 and 25. Since a preacher's authority resides in the message he delivers, maturity in years and experience is not as significant as it is with elders. The administration authority of the eldership needs to be supported by the respect naturally given to maturity in years. While a preacher's ministry will benefit with maturity in years, a young preacher can still accomplish his ministry objectives with a clear delivery of God's word. Timothy and Titus are two New Testament examples of young preachers. You can look in 1 Timothy 4:12 and Titus 2:6 through 8, where it talks of how that they are young preachers. Then he must have an exemplary lifestyle. An exemplary lifestyle is the foundational moral requirement for all church leaders. Any church leader with high visibility should be expected to maintain an exemplary lifestyle sufficient to establish the confidence of the people that he wishes to lead. This would especially apply to the preacher, since he is in the position of telling the Christian or the church, the congregation, how they are to live the Christian life. 1 Timothy 4:7 and 12 and 15 and 16, and then Titus 2:7. He should actively pursue righteousness. A preacher is to make his own spiritual growth top priority. 1 Timothy 6:11 and 2 Timothy 2:22. He is to have a mature interest in growing spiritually. He is to be willing to aggressively seek to change inappropriate habits. Only then can he challenge the moral lives of his people without hypocrisy. He must have a good sense of balance. A preacher should be well grounded and not easily swayed from his position, as 2 Timothy 4:5 indicates. The Greek word nepho It means in the New American Standard, the translation is be sober. The NIV says keep your head. King James Version, be watchful, or the Revised Standard Version says be steady. The basic idea is do not allow circumstances or people to push him around. A preacher should not be intimidated by the negative reaction of the church to his preaching of sound doctrine. A preacher, that's 2 Timothy 4:3-4. A preacher should not be intimidated by difficult situations in life. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 5. Should have an image of mature thinking and self-discipline. 2 Timothy 2:22, not given to youthful lusts. Young preachers in particular should be wary of the temptations that are common to a young man. Opportunities for illicit sexual activity, opportunities for large amounts of athletics and recreation, excesses. It's talking about the latter. Young preachers should also be wary of the impatience that is common among young men, the desire to make material gains soon or quickly, and the desire to achieve public recognition soon. Should be dignified. The Greek word semnotes, is translated dignified by the New American Standard, seriousness by the NIV, gravity by the King James Version. And the basic idea here is to act in such a way that people are inclined to take you seriously and to treat you with due respect. Titus 2:8 says use decent language, the same word. Free from the love of money. A preacher should not let a desire for money and things unduly influence his actions or priorities. 1 Timothy 6:9-11. He's to always remember the priority of spiritual matters over material things. He's always mindful of his duty to provide good care of his family, and he is often willing to make some reasonable sacrifices for the sake of his ministry. And then he should relate well with other people. He should have a gracious or tactful attitude. 1 Timothy chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. She had pure motives toward others. 1 Timothy 5:2. Not quarrelsome. 2 Timothy 2:24. He should be gentle and kind. 1 Timothy 6:11 and 2 Timothy 2:24 and 25. And he should be patient. 2 Timothy 2:24 and 2 Timothy 4:2. And so those are the requirements of being a preacher. Biblical knowledge and adequate ability, an example of an exemplary lifestyle. That's all for today. That finishes our section on the preacher. Next week, we're going to talk about the deacons and their place within the church and all that goes with that. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson as much as I've enjoyed presenting it to you, and I hope you have a great rest of the day and a great week.